Hi, I'm Chris Soth. I'm a writer, director, filmmaker, and I'm the founder of milliondolarscreenwriting.com and yourscreenplaymentor.com, where we help screenwriters and filmmakers make their dreams come true on the big screen and in real life. Okay, well, in my own career, I started out as an actor, and I studied first as an actor, and I worked as an actor mainly on stage, and I started doing my own writing as a stand-up comedian and magician, and I wrote acts, and I found if I gave myself an act and built a little story around the trick, I could get a lot more material, a lot more time on stage, and a lot more laughs, and the story would get the audience much more involved than just a magic trick of, and here's your card. And so I started to write stories for myself. I started to write my own material, my own comedy material, and I read a lot at the time too. And I was reading a lot of escapist fiction because I worked on cruise ships, and these were the kind of books we had, the books that you take to the beach. And I realized about half the time I thought, gosh, I could do a better job than this. Some escapist fiction is very good, and about half of it is not so good. And like many writers I know, I said, I could write something better than this. And I tried my hand at it, and I wrote a novel, and then I decided to write the screenplay of that novel, and after that I was hooked. I read all the screenwriting books there were, and like many writers, I thought, I just want to write a screenplay that's better than the worst movie I ever saw. And I succeeded, but after that, I wanted to write good ones, and I started to learn. I read all the books that were there, and I finally decided to go to USC. And I was one of the very lucky ones. My thesis screenplay, which is I guess only the third or fourth screenplay I wrote, sold while I was still a graduate student at USC for $750,000, and that was made into a movie called Firestorm, and it's an action-adventure movie set in the United States of America's Yellowstone National Park. And what I specialize in is a method of story structure that I call the mini-movie method. It's based on what I learned at USC. If you've been taught story structure, what you mainly know is the three-act structure, sort of beginning, middle, end. And that's perfectly good as far as it goes, but it's not specific enough, and it leaves you with some awfully big, unmanageable pieces. Act 2 can be 60 pages long, 60 minutes of your movie, the middle half of your movie, and it doesn't give you a lot of guidance. Whereas with mini-movies, it's chaptering your story in 15-minute segments, kind of based on the amount of film that is held on a reel when the film is ultimately edited and projected. And filmmakers, starting when movies were invented, found it very useful to shoot a single subject on a single reel, and as movies got longer and longer until they grew to the length they are today, about 2 hours long, or between 90 minutes and 2 hours, these are 6 to 8 chapters, each held on a reel. And early film writers wrote to the reel, not to the act. And each chunk, every 15-minute chunk of movie that goes onto a reel, is written to be its own discrete chapter with its own discrete tension that supports the main tension of the story. And when I started to teach, after I sold my first screenplay and my first movie was being made, I realized that what was mainly being taught was this three-act structure, which again, perfectly good as far as it goes, but there's a much better way, and that's to divide your story up into 8 mini-movies rather than 3 acts. And so I've been specializing in that, and I'm teaching it all over the world, all over the English-speaking world, and now in the Swedish-speaking world as well.